Hey, what is up, guys? It's Brennan here, and today we have a breaking news story on Bitcoin hitting $1 trillion in market value as the cryptocurrency surge continues. So that's what we're going to be breaking down today. What I think about Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin, and as it hits this massive market jump. What do I think about it, and how has this been a change over the last few years to how does Bitcoin look like now? Now, before we dive into the video, be sure to check out the second link in the description down below. You got to get started with Webull to get your 2 free stocks. So go ahead, check out that link down below. And without further ado, let's jump into the story here. So here we have Bitcoin. It hits $1 trillion in market value. This is from CNBC. And this is honestly crazy to see just from an outsider looking in at Bitcoin, right? So looking at this price target here, now the digital currency just is at $54,000 per coin. This is as of today, February 19th. Now, as you can see here, if you look at the updated number, it's just over $56,000, which is crazy to imagine considering the fact that just last year, just around the same time last year, you could see that Bitcoin was hovering around that like $7,000 to $9,000 mark, which is insane to think of how much of a massive run up that the cryptocurrency has had. And whether or not this is sustainable, that's what people are really wondering. What is the sustainability of Bitcoin as a currency? Now, that's what we're going to get into later in this video, as whether or not it can actually be a realistic currency, why people are flocking to it, this huge run up in value. Part of it has to do with Elon Musk tweeting it and it blows up. I mean, that was just what had happened before, and it's just been a crazy run up with all these different CEOs taking it as part of their balance sheets, adding it into their companies. And similar to Elon Musk, really, Elon Musk has been at kind of the forefront with that. And then seeing how all these other companies are wanting to add it to their balance sheet as almost like a hedge against inflation. Whether or not that's going to end up being great in the long run is debatable, but it's something that has become quite popular. As you can see in the news story here, it's just been a massive run, and a lot of companies are adopting it now. As I have been in the news scene here with Bitcoin now versus back in the run up back in about 2017, if we take a look at the 5-year jump. And I even remember taking a look at Bitcoin back in like I think even before this price target here, before like the 2015 time range, it had spiked at 1,000. And that's all you heard about Bitcoin, right? That initial run up back in the day, back in like I think it was around 2015, 2014 or so. I remember hitting a $1,000, and that's like the first time that Bitcoin ever actually hit the news for me. And then just a few years ago, back in like late 2017, that crazy run up there, a lot of it had to do just with like, oh, it's big hype, right? And there's a lot of kind of speculation around Bitcoin as to whether or not it's actually useful as a currency because it's decentralized and people can utilize it that way. So that's kind of part of the reason there, but you never really heard about big CEOs taking it seriously like they are now here in 2021. And as you can see now with the massive price jump, even over $56,000, which is quite incredible. Whether or not it's going to be a great hedge against inflation is hard to see. In my opinion, at least in my personal opinion, with Bitcoin being useful, it's hard to say because a currency, you typically want it to be stable, right? You want something that you can go buy a loaf of bread and you know that a couple dollars is going to get you a loaf of bread. Whereas with a Bitcoin, if you accept payments with it, even though you can do that with companies like BitPay as a payment processor, you can accept a Bitcoin on like a Shopify store or something like that. You can accept it with e-commerce. And yeah, it's great and all that you can accept payments that way, but whether or not it's exactly going to be useful to you, because when you get that payment and then the price keeps fluctuating, as you could see if we take a look here just in the last 5 days. I mean you guys know the insane volatility with Bitcoin. Whether or not that's going to be really useful as a currency is kind of debatable, because you don't want massive price fluctuations in a typical day-to-day currency that you use to actually, go buy groceries or pay for gas or utility or whatever it may be, even in a business situation. Realistically, a lot of these CEOs, especially with Elon Musk kind of being at the front of that, and then you've got various different companies that are taking it on as part of their balance sheets. It's almost like a way that they could see it as more of an investment. And at least that's the way the government's treating it as well, as more or less like an investment versus a currency. So it's hard to say whether or not it can actually be useful as a currency because of the fact that it's so volatile at this point with these massive price fluctuations. You're not going to get the same amount of value one day. The value is going to be drastically different from the next day. It's going to take a bit more time for the currency to stabilize, especially with all these other headlines. I mean, it just hit $1 trillion, but there was some other headline just the other day about it, the potential price target of $1 million per Bitcoin. If the real run-up is going to continue to rise like that, it's really hard to say whether or not it can actually be useful as a typical day-to-day currency. If the price is going to fluctuate so much, at least in the next couple of years, whether or not that's great and all, cool as a currency, that debate, I think we just got through that well enough. But as an investment, it's hard to say just because of how this run-up has been, and because so many people are standing behind it nowadays in 2021 compared to how Bitcoin looked like back in 2017 when the volatility, it looks very similar. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. It looks very similar to 2017 times. Everyone had the hype around it, and then that hype kind of died off and it trailed down, and it basically hit kind of like a new level. So it was like Bitcoin, you never heard of it initially in that 2014-2015 period, hit 1,000, and then it dipped down, kind of like at a standstill for a long time. It was kind of flatline, and then 2017 started picking up again, hit the headlines, boom, and then the hype kind of died down, and then it trended down at the same kind of price level, more that $10,000 range, or even it went down to, I think, 3,000, 4,000. It's like the hype died down, and then now, especially now, the hype is just continuing to climb in this hype train, and whether or not that hype might die off, it's hard to exactly say. It's impossible to really know whether or not when that hype will die off, but it's kind of like it just plateaus after that point. And if Bitcoin were to plateau for an extended period of time, then maybe it could be used as a legitimate currency, as a great option for people to accept payments. But with the way that everything's been in the economy, all these different asset classes and asset prices continuing to rise, real estate, stocks, I mean, you see it across the board. People are looking for an alternative investment, and Bitcoin might be that option. I'm not saying whether or not that's great for you, for me, it's hard to say. Bitcoin is one of those options that people could go with, but it's whether or not it has that longevity is hard to say, and it's just debatable. But I figured I'd break this news story here on the channel, and I get started with some of these different types of topics on the channel. I have delved into personal finance. I have some e-commerce videos, but I figured I'd get into some current events things, and let me know what you guys think about it. But that's pretty much the video here today on Bitcoin hitting that market value. Let me know what you guys think. So make sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Hit that notification bell as well so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. But that is all for today, guys, so I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.